Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to the Construct Your Life, Construct My Life. We have Mr. Blake Dailey in the house. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I just went on his podcast. We could have talked for about 7 hours. So this time I'm not going to hog the mic. We're going to let, that was your podcast. So yes, I'm just kidding. We're going to let him tell his story. But man, before we get started, you're so young and you're so impressive already and so driven. And I can definitely tell that about you. We talked about all that stuff. We talked about what the 9 bajillion things you have going on. It's like a younger version of me. So, so why don't you tell everybody kind of your story, start where you want to, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So I guess my story goes back to the start, and I'm in real estate. I guess that's my background. That's how you and I connected. And I guess the genesis of that story was really learning and educating through Read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then got into Bigger Pockets, went down that whole rabbit hole. But I saw that as like a legitimate way to get myself to financial freedom and where I wanted myself and my family to end up ultimately. So I started out by house hacking, bought a single family house with an attached guest suite. It was a mother-in-law suite that we rented out, and I knew that wasn't going to cash flow or pay our mortgage if we rented a long-term rental. So my wife and I, we would travel and stay in like these little units of other people, like in Denver when she'd come out to see me in college, and we'd stay in these little guest suites. So I knew that it can make money on Airbnb. So that's what we did. We furnished it for like $2,500, started renting it out, and it actually paid us to live there for free. So it paid all our living expenses down to the Wi-Fi. I was like, man, this is something cool. So we kind of put that on the shelf for a minute, and I started doing direct to seller marketing. And then our first couple months here in Panama City, where at my first duty station, we closed consecutively like 3 months in a row on different houses through direct to seller marketing, just literally handwriting letters. My wife would put the envelopes and write the return addresses on them, and I would write the letters to the people, to the homeowners. So we got a few deals like that and ended up finding a partner in this market. We did some rehabs, did a burr and did a flip with them, learned a ton, wholesaled with them for a while, did a couple wholesales, and then began burring on my own. Got more Airbnb properties because I saw how great this model works. So we kind of targeted this niche where we would find single family homes with an extra unit and put both units on Airbnb, rent them separately or all together, really maximizing the revenue we could generate from each property. In that first year, we surpassed my W-2 income when I was making from the Air Force with our pure like net cash flow, annual average, because obviously it's higher in the high season, it gets lower when you get into the winter months here in Florida. So surpassed our cash flow, or surpassed our W-2 income with cash flow, got into bigger multifamily during that time because I was thinking, I got properties all over the place. I'd want something more scalable. We syndicated a 66-unit apartment complex and now focusing on more of these commercial type Airbnb properties.
How old are you?
24.
Okay.
Some change.
I have this theory that when 45 and 50-year-olds try to get into multifamily or real estate investing, there's too much context placed around their life. They've lived too many fears, up and downs. They have kids, all that kind of stuff. So it takes them 2-3 years to act. It takes them, a long time, analysis paralysis. And then I have a theory that, if you're 18, 19, 21, 22, the lack of knowledge actually creates the momentum that you need because you don't know any better.
Yeah, and so nothing scares you enough to not get started.
Yeah. And so as you look back, you're 24 now, as you look back at the 19-year-old version of yourself, where do you think was this the way you were raised, or did you just understand the mechanism of how money got made through real estate? And that's because you weaponize yourself with knowledge and surround yourself with good people, you just jumped in, or was it just a pure unadulterated, I just want to be free?
I think it was really a combination of both because you mentioned right there at the end, I was like, man, I just want to be free. I didn't want to work for somebody, thinking 5, 10, 20 years at this time. I was like, when I'm 30 or 40, I don't want to be working for somebody else. I want to create my own thing. And now it's turned into like, I can do that in my 20s because of what I've seen and been able to do. But yeah, growing up, I really, didn't have any entrepreneurs in my family, but had somebody around me that had real estate. So I knew that real estate was like a real thing. And I saw the portfolio that he had, but it never really made the connection. I thought, oh, that'd be really cool. Maybe I can buy some houses or something. And then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it just opened up real estate. I was like, oh, that's what he was doing, building this big portfolio. Now he's making, hundreds of thousands of passive cash flow a year. So that's what got me on the path. And I thought, I could get to that point by the time I retired in the military if I just bought a house every year, every time we PCS'd. And then I just realized that it's a scalable business. It's a scalable model because you can repeat your process like the BRRRR strategy, right? You have velocity of money, can just use that same process. It's just all about buying right. So kind of dual flavored there. Had a taste of it. And then I just thought I'm going to go after and get this thing.
What do you think it is? Because I probably interviewed 50, I would say, maybe less, maybe a little bit less. But what do you think it is about the military that gets people so excited about real estate investing? Am I the only one that feels like it's kind of the new thing where like, it's like, hey, military, like Eric Upchurch, an active duty passive, Adam Whitley, my business partner, is there something about the mind that it makes sense, or is it just something that's talked about in the military spaces pretty regularly?
I don't know. So I am part of a military real estate investor group, a mastermind. We all get together and talk about our business plans and everything. And I think maybe it's like the structure in the military, like it's so regimented. You're on somebody else's time, and then the allure of real estate is that it gives you freedom, right? If you set up your business, you can create passive income to replace your W-2 income that you work for. So instead of trading your time for money, you can kind of direct your own way of life, right? You can get to that point where you don't have to take leave. You can just get up and go, or like we were talking about before we started the podcast, like you can work from anywhere in the world if you set up your systems right and you have enough property. So maybe that's a part of it. And then it's just in the military too, you get access to the VA loan, which is like the best loan package in the world. And if you're listening to this and you're in the military, definitely look at using your VA loan to even start buying your first house or house hacking. So that's another big factor. And then people move so much. So people are actively, transitioning homes and purchasing in different places they go, or maybe even renting and are thinking about purchasing. So then it brings up the conversations about where you're living, what's your housing situation? Are you living on base? Are you living off base? And it kind of naturally goes to, maybe some senior NCO says, hey, if you just buy that house and rent it out, and then in 20 years, you can be financially free. And then for all us in that war room mastermind, we're like, well, shoot, we could do this in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. And so you're 24 now. I want you, there's a lot of young people that listen to this that are getting started or newer agents. You've dabbled in many different, you're in the middle of a couple different asset classes. What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self as you sit back, 6 years later and you're invested in multifamily, Airbnb, single family, house hacking? Like, what advice would you, if you 6 years only removed from that, could you have give to yourself? What would you say?
And 18-year-old me, I would say the first most important step is to educate, learn the steps you need. And I don't mean like you don't need to learn the whole industry like some people think you do. Just learn enough. And then the second step is to take action. So educate and take action. If you just learn enough to kind of decide, like to realize like the pitfalls and just avoid those, but take action towards that long-term goal, like know what you want. Like you have enough time that it doesn't matter if you fail. Your failures are just going to create more success down the road. Like nobody gets into business and just has a perfect, flawless record of business deals or rental properties. Like we have scratches, we have scars. Like I've had properties I had to flip and made no money, wasted a lot of time. And I've had other properties that don't cash flow. Now I'm looking at selling that property. And you learn these things, but the whole effort, like down the road, it pays off. So educate and take action.
What advice would you have on getting into asset classes? Like, what do you deem as like something that either, let's just say, like, in general, like your favorite asset class that you've seen as you've worked through a couple different, like, is it flipping? Is it wholesaling? Is it Airbnb? Or like, what's the best advice? I know everybody says like, hey, get started with wholesaling, get started with flipping, but like, those are jobs. So it's like, what, like, kind of, I just love to hear your view as you sit today, which I know changes on a monthly basis, but I'm just curious.
Yeah. It's always dynamic. But I think at the very beginning, especially when I was 18, like, I thought mutual funds were my path to financial freedom, right? And I could get there, at the ripe age of 65. So starting out, you just don't have enough information. I think that's why educating is so important. Like, learn what's actually out there for you. And I'm biased towards real estate because you own a physical asset that appreciates over time. Rents go up over time. You have tax benefits. You make income every single month. Like, when people pay their rents, that comes directly to you as the property owner. Like, you're not betting on the appreciation of Dogecoin, right? Going to the moon. There's something real there, right?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if Elon Musk tweets about the housing market.
Dude, I'm sorry. I haven't, and don't get me wrong, I bought, like, I have enough good friends that I'm finally in the crypto game. All right. And I bought whatever.
And I'm not even hating on crypto. I think there's
but the overall mechanisms of investing, and what I've realized, and I think you've realized in a short amount of time, is you have to remove the emotion from it. Like, exactly. It's this cyclical feeling of, well, I'm going to miss out here and I'm going to miss out there, and I should have done that. Like, no, it's all relative. Like, you just have to action. Like, I think that's what you're saying. It's
like, if you're in equities and stocks and things like that, your investments are very dependent on the cyclical market. And if you're investing in real estate, if you're doing it well, the cyclical market should not impact your investment, because if you buy with equity, you can have enough to go through those downturns, and then you have the cash flow to make it through. So cash flow is your defense. You don't ever have to sell, even if your property values go down, because you're still paying the mortgage each month and putting money in your pocket. So rents go up over time, and the values, even if they do come down, they're going to go up over time more steadily than the stock market. You're not going to have the big swings. So that's why I love real estate. And I think when you're picking an asset class in it, yes, you can get started with a relatively low amount of money wholesaling. You can drive for dollars like I did and write handwritten notes and probably spend 50 to 60 cents per letter if you handwrite them and buy the stamps and the envelopes and all that kind of stuff. So you can do that relatively cheap, but you need to know that you're going to trade your time for that. So I spent a ton of time, probably, I don't even know, 100 or 200 hours before I got my first wholesale deal. And that was spread out over months of, just hours every week, hours every night. So that's going to take a lot of time. And I think just the standard rental property, if you're going to just get started, buy properties at a good price point, so you make your money when you buy, essentially, and then that can cash flow. So you want to buy for cash flow, and then you combine that with the burst strategy. If you buy a discounted property, because it's ugly, it smells bad, whatever, you can go and add value, get it up to market value, refinance to get the money back you just put into it, and at cash flow. So now you take that chunk of money and go get the next one. So I love the burst strategy. And I think if anybody's going to start, that'd be the best place to start. And then over time, as you build skills, as you learn how to rehab homes, as you learn how to manage cash flow and keep track of your books and stick to your budget as now a property owner and essentially a business owner. Each one of those properties are like little businesses. If you can then manage that, you can get into anything. You can get into to Airbnb or commercial multifamily or whatever. So it's about the fundamentals when you're starting out.
And how do you, like, you talk about like 16, 14 unit, all that stuff coming up, and the possibility, like, how do you go after a property like that? Like, do you have the cash to just buy that straight up? Like, how do you attack something like that? What's your mindset?
Now we're talking about future deals before the contracts are.
I'm just saying a metaphysical 16 unit. I'm just saying, if somebody will make it a 17 and a half unit. If somebody wants to scale up to something like that, like, is it about time in the field and executing on deals? So like future investors know that you have a reputation where you can get things done.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, especially when you're getting into bigger deals where you're raising the money and bringing on investor capital. So that's going to be the most important time for you to actually know your shit, right? You don't want to go out and raise money if you're not comfortable yourself. Like I see a lot of people, and this is what just irks me in the multifamily space, as people go out and put in their LinkedIn profile that they're multifamily investors and they're trying to raise money and they have no business owning or operating a multifamily property. Like you have no real estate experience. Why would I give you my money for you to go out and learn this strategy? No. So for me, I think it's important to kind of build up your resume. And I tell people you can get into multifamily on your first deal. And it can be small or large commercial multifamily where you're raising money, but like know your stuff and educate and have a team, right? If you have a team that can fill your weak spots, like if you're really good at raising money, if you have a great network and you can pull together the capital, go find a great operator that you trust and that you rely on. And then that becomes like an extension of you and you partner up for the deal. But in regards to these deals, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts. So there's, the whole Airbnb operation side of it, which is a very specific skill set in itself, which takes time to learn. So I learned that by owning and operating my 7 units. My wife and I self-managed for over a year and are still very involved with our property managers now to make those run efficiently. And then you have the whole capital raise side, which goes back to your operation side. So to build those up, we've done several rehab projects. So we have the contractor connections now. They know that we're going to pay them on time and we know these people are going to do the work right. So we have that trust built. So when you combine those things like the operation side and the rehab side of it, that's what gives me the confidence to go chase these bigger deals and then bring people in either as partners or as, passive investors. So it all comes back to like your own confidence and your ability to execute on the business plan.
Well, what's interesting, right, is as you're saying that, I'm starting to think about something. And I know I've breached this in my mind before, but nobody's intentional anymore. Right. And what I mean by that is I'm intentional with my networking. Like, hey, who do I need to meet this week? Like, well, this week I need to meet a guy because like I'm thinking about starting this company. Okay, well, I need to go meet that guy. Well, if you walk into it and you say, okay, here's the deal, Blake and Blake's business partner is we want to do 16 to 30 units, right? Well, in order to feel confident walking into that, what if we went and did 3 flips first in an Airbnb and we ran through the 3 contractors that didn't work and we found the guy what if we treated those first 2 years or year and a half as fucking practice?
Yeah.
Instead of
you don't go play the championship game before going through the whole regular season and the practice in the 2 days, right?
But no, we look at it and we cling on it like grim death. And it's like, dude, it's just like, I look at the first 3 houses I bought as pure practice. Like that. Here's what's interesting. True story. Literally decided last night. Long story short, had a person on the podcast. So like, hey, there's 130 acres in Idaho. Like, do you want to do this with me? And I'm like, my dream property? Yeah. Like we don't have the money. Like, but like long story short, owner carry. I've got the vision for it. We can syndicate it, Airbnb farm. Like it's a whole thing, right? And she said, do you want to pursue this? And literally my thought was, let's go down the rabbit hole, see what happens. If we close on it, we close on it. If we don't, we don't. But I know that through it, I'm going to be better for it. Because if you carry on that growth mindset, like you can't, like I've done it. Like I've already done it my whole life, is to attach myself to the outcome before the outcomes even happen. But if you attach yourself to the practice, to the process of it, like then you create the mechanism where the outcomes are just a byproduct of the actions. Yeah.
That's really good. I think so. Something's ringing back to my head of what you said on our podcast is like, and back to the intentionality factors. People are very unintentional with their actions now. And you were saying like people network and just continue to network and spend all this time, but they don't even know what they need, or maybe they have it already, but they're still trying to go out there and find what they already have. So there's a lot of wasted effort. And I think that's really good. Like if you know what you want and you know how to get it, like focus on the process of doing that and not, this end goal. So that's good.
No. And it's because we've wrapped this deal in it's the deal that's going to change my life. Like it's the deal. I need to do this. Instead of saying, perfect example, there's a story out there, it's been said a million times, but basically long story short is this guy's like pretty wealthy. And he's like, 42. And he's like, okay, I need this much money per year coming in, and I can live the lifestyle that I've already created. And like, he's like 42. He wants to spend time with his family. He's like, I'm going to go back in. And he's like, I'm going to tear it up for 10 years and I'm going to get there. And his mentor said, whoa, hold on. Let's really break this down. And so he said, I need $2 million a year to live like the way I want to, the life I've created with the homes I did. So they go in and they break down his entire business, and they found out he only needed $650,000 to live exactly the way he was. And he was already making $580 a year. He was literally like 60 grand more, like one more like passive income or one more business. And he was about to dive in for 10 years, leave his family, sacrifice everything. And he was already there. Because here's the number one problem. As I talk with my other co-hosts about businesses, he's built multiples. Nobody knows what they need. Nobody has any idea what they need, because here's what's scary. The numbers are scary. Actually pulling apart the kimono and having to look at your business and realize that's not working, that's working. Nobody does that. They just move forward.
You know what I think on top of that too, is I think there's a surprisingly few amount of people that know what they actually want. Like they don't know what they want. And what I mean is they have these goals that are driven by these external factors. Like you were just saying, I need $2 million. Well, if you break that apart, why do you need $2 million? And a great example of this whole topic is the book Life in Air. So if you haven't read Life in Air, that's a really good book. Yeah. So you think you need $2 million, but what is that $2 million? Is it to, travel and maintain your house and do all these things with your kids, to go buy a boat? Well, what if you could, are you even going to use the boat like every weekend all throughout the summer? What if you could just go rent a boat for 1 weekend, have a great time with your family? That takes $350 instead of 35 grand. So now this 2 million, if you just break it down, like what do you actually want? Like don't focus on all these goals. Like I see this in the real estate world all the time. And I've been guilty of it myself. I see somebody close a 120 unit deal. Like, man, I really want a 120 unit deal because I want to feel the success that they're projecting right now. But really, I don't need that. If I look at like my goals is to be free, spend time with my wife when we have kids in a couple of years, be present in their life because I didn't have present parents in mind and I want to create a better life for them. So what do I need for that? I need cash flow to, not be working in a job 40, 60 hours a week. I need the cash flow to be present with them. Well, what's that cash flow number? And break that down. How many deals do I need to do? And that's why I like the Airbnb, is because I can do less deals, have less units, less management, because the cash flow is like 3 to 5 times higher. So with less deals, I can reach my goals faster. And that's what I was able to do in that first year. And then I got away from it. I was like, big multifamily is a thing. And I did one and it was cool, but I was like, man, breaking it back to actually what I really want. And then focus your activities, focus your practice, like we were talking about, on that.
Well, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but this concept that you just talked about is what I've tried to explain for 250 episodes, because I'm
just now getting it too. Like,
no, I know, but what people don't understand is as simple as this: is every time you create a new revenue stream, or you create more money in your business, or growth, or whatever it is, you have to look at, let's say you bring in an extra $20,000, that just for shits and grins. What is my time associated to the $20,000, right? And then how much are they actually taking as far as taxes are concerned, right? And then let's take it to 75,000. Well, is 75,000 asking another 40 hours of my time? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And so if it fills you up, right? Okay, perfect example. My coaching business. Like changing somebody's life and getting that aha moment and making them a better husband, spouse, or dad or mom creates the fulfillment that I need, right? So they give money, I make them better, I'm happy, it gives me energy, and I can go out and help the world, right? But too many times we're searching for that goal, or we're going down that path because we're letting injected values become our values. Mm-hmm. And so
was me for like the last good bit of time, like 6-8 months, whatever.
Because hear me out. And I'm not saying I'm very glad that you did all those things, but if you continued to go down the Airbnb path and didn't get distracted, I would, and great. You're going to do it. You're going to execute. You're going to crush it. I'm not looking down on it. All I'm saying is cash flow wise, you might already be 100% farther along than you would. And at the end of the day, it's as simple as this. We're living this life and we're selling a story that everybody needs to be two things. And I'm over it. And I'm officially on the bandwagon and I'm on a campaign. There's two things we sell. Everybody needs to be an entrepreneur and everybody needs to be an active investor. Bullshit. Here's the deal. If you have a great job and you love what you do, or here's the thing. They're trying to tell everybody that they're the alpha, they're the A's, they're the things. They're the CEO. Dude, do you understand how much pressure it is to run like multiple companies and have people's livelihood? Can you go be, like Gary Vee says it all the time, can you go be the fourth best person at a fucking $1 billion company and have none of the responsibility and have a fucking great life? Could you invest $50,000 in a syndication and not have to worry if the plumber shows up? But
Man, we're on the same wavelength right now. Cause I just wrote, I'll say this quickly. I just wrote a blog post on my website that says, syndicating does not create passive income. Investing in syndications does. So you hear all the courses, all the Facebook ads, everything that's saying, hey, you need to become a syndicator because they're selling a business model. They're making money off of education, probably more so than they actually are as syndicators or investors. And, I'm not knocking that, information and coaching and teaching is a great business, but it doesn't all need to be the same thing. If everybody's trying to syndicate, you get no more good deals. And that's what's happening right now because everybody's a syndicator. But investing that $50,000 could actually get you to your goal of passive income. I was watching Shark Tank and Mark Cuban, billionaire, like net worth of $4 billion. There's this entrepreneur, they bootstrapped their business, had like over, I think it was like $1.5 million of sales, no debt, had done everything themselves. And this was like direct to consumer. So they weren't paying retailers and wholesalers and all these things. He's like, man, this is Mark Cuban. He's saying your most important asset is your time. And you have a business that you can make this kind of money off of without, the influx of capital or giving up control to an outside investor. He's like, you have it made. So for that reason, I'm out. And then he goes out and he's like, they left without a deal. And they're like, actually, I have everything I need. This is great advice. And just by being on the show, they're probably going to blow up anyway. So,
yeah. Well, it's
your goals.
Well, no, it's 100%. It's like, so typical me, yesterday built like 3 businesses, like when I was getting a massage and like
off in your head.
Yeah. Like literally mapped it out, the whole thing. And
well, you're the person that fits as the entrepreneur. You weren't probably sold this that I had to be an entrepreneur. That's actually your goal and you're following with something.
Well, and at the end of the day, the need for my business is 100% generated off of customers. We don't need any capital to get it started up. It's pure our time. Well, guess what? In the first 2 years, it's our time. And then after that, once you put people in place, our time is removed and everything's automated. And now you've created a cash machine, right? And here's what's crazy is why I can do a tranche of the business is because that entire vertical is outsourced to my friends that I already have that already do that at the highest level. Spinning
plates. You got to get one going and then focus on the next one. So that's really good. That's what I'm trying to do now with like the Airbnbs. If all these deals get up and running, I can probably do it with the 15. But if I double that with one of these deals, then it's really going to be scalable. So that is my exact goal, is to focus on this tranche because I've been, trying to spin 3 or 4 plates at the same time. And like just saving them from breaking, just barely.
What advice would you give? Anything like things that you've learned after doing so many Airbnbs and kind of doing it yourself and management? Kind of give us your top 3 tips to Airbnb.
Man, I think number 1 is that like it's hospitality. It's a hospitality business. So it's no longer, just investing. So if your expectations are that you're going to go in and operate it like a long-term rental or like, you would on multifamily, that's not the case. So you actually have to prepare and the guest is always right kind of thing, but have your systems in place to support that and just know that you're catering to guests. Your demand and your bookings and your revenue are generated by the amount of stays and the reviews. So the more people you get to give good reviews, the higher you're going to get ranked in the search bar on Airbnb, whatever platform you're on, and the more you're going to get booked. So if you search, Panama City, Florida, you see mine right there in the top on that first page usually, especially if you get off like the beach side, then I'm definitely right there. Cause Panama City Beach are kind of two different markets. So if you search Panama City, you're going to see mine because I have a long list of reviews for doing it so long and focusing on the customer, which is the guest. The second thing I think is that you really, to do it at any level of scale, like past one unit, as soon as we went past one unit, we brought in software tools that really helped us utilize our time better. So we started using tools like Smart B&B, like Price Labs, and those things, and channel managers. So what those do is put all your, if you have multiple listings and they're on multiple platforms, that's like, infinitely amount of places your listings are all out that guests can come to you from. So it's like an octopus just shaking its tentacles. But if you put that all on a channel manager, you have all your inboxes synced. You can send, messages through the platform or SMSs to the guest phone number that's registered directly from one inbox. So the software, and it puts all your calendars in one place so you can see all your bookings in one place. And then it does automated messaging. So all those things. So the software is huge. So one is, hospitality. Two is the software that you would bring into it. And I think to give you a third thing, it would be you definitely use professional photos, and you don't have to go deck this thing out with $30,000 of furnishing. So I talked about my first one. We furnished it for $2,500, and I think on average it brings in $2,200 per month. So your return on the smaller units are a lot higher. And you can get your money back faster, and you can furnish them with, Facebook Marketplace, or you can get a lot of things on Amazon now or IKEA that ship directly to your place for cheap, and you can set them up. And I think those would be my three things. So you don't have to go over the top. You can just make it clean and appealing and put some cool artwork and professional photos, and that's going to draw a lot of people to you.
I love it. So what we're going to do is we're not allowed to talk about the deals you're working on. We're going to bring you back on after you've executed on those deals, and we're going to have a new conversation. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So
both offers are with the attorneys and verbal confirmation on both, but sellers are so finicky right now that like I'm knocking on wood left and right. I'm just going to carry around rabbit's feet with me because they just went back and forth, and I've learned not to count my chickens before they hatch now.
I love it. So if people want to find out about your podcast, everything you have going on, how would they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to multifamilyjourney.com. So that's where I talk about everything I've done in multifamily up until this point. I have all my deals on there, like broken down, the lessons learned, the numbers into them, everything. So if you want to see how like real deals work and how you put those together, and I talk about the creative finance methods I use to build up that portfolio, you can go check that out, multifamilyjourney.com. And the podcast is up there. It's the Multifamily Journey podcast. Austin was just on it. That was one of my favorite episodes. So definitely check that one out. And then you can find me on Instagram, Blake Dailey or Blake J. Dailey.
Well, I appreciate that. Guys, if you like this episode, make sure you send it out to your friends, rate us and review us, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.